Peep Squad. This video is way late and my ring light just went off. Why does it do that? Okay, this video is way late and I apologize for that, but stuff's just been crazy and I'm not even going to get into it. Anyway, this is The Stand, episode 4, and titled Dead House. House of the Dead, not Dead Houses. That doesn't make any sense. House of the Dead. I don't know what that is referring to. But yeah, overall I'd probably have to say one of my least favorite episodes so far. It's an episode where we need to get the plot moving on, so just things happen and we don't get to spend a whole lot of time with the characters and really watch that. But I understand why this episode exists and its purpose, but it's just on its own, it's not that great. Anyway. The episode opens, Fran is writing a journal to her unborn baby, and she's also narrating it. This is a big part of the book, specifically the first part of it. The novel is split into 3 parts. I told you that before, but specifically like the first part, it plays a big part in that book. And after that, we see the committee is sort of getting ready for the meeting in which they're going to have a not a re-election. I guess they're gonna vote for new see if anybody wants new members on the committee. And Harold's also getting ready, and it's interesting because the way it's shot, it shows the Tom Cruise cutout. It looks like he's laughing at Harold, which is funny, I guess. And Larry is dumping his drugs down the drain. You know, obviously we know he's, as we saw in episode 2, he likes his drugs. But one thing I don't really like is if we know that, but we don't really understand. We haven't spent a whole lot of time with Larry as far as the drugs go, and so just it would have been better if we had more screen time with that, and so this moment would have had more weight to it. And so they go to the meeting. There's like unrest and stuff because people are upset about the crucified man from last week's episode. But then it kind of flashes back, and this is kind of cool how it jumps back and forth between their committees setting up the meeting and kind of planning, and then obviously the meeting itself. And so Fran says like, "Hey Larry, you're better with crowd control. Why don't you go out and help Stu because he's having a hard time with stuff." And so Larry, obviously because he's a rock star, he's better at these things. He's like, "Thank you to the body crew," which is interesting because it says the body crew's done, basically with all the bodies. So I said last week was wrong. I said something about how. I don't remember what I said, but about timeline and the body crew, which it was wrong. Whatever I said was wrong. I don't remember specifically what it was, but it's wrong. So I guess that all the part 2 scenes just happen chronologically, which is easier if you're trying to figure out the timeline. Anyway, so then he goes to talk about the power, and the power in the book is out for most of the book. It's not even, they don't even restore the power until the end of part 2, and so and they don't even have generators either, so they're just like candles and fire. Basically it's their only source of light. Maybe they have flashlights and stuff, I think, too. And so that's a big part of it. But I don't really, because they mentioned earlier that some of the people already have generators, so getting the power back on doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. But it is, I guess. And we don't really get to see a whole lot of that anyway, so it's just kind of pointless. Then they set up the City Watch, which is basically the police, but they don't want to call it that. Because they don't have guns, I guess. I don't know. It's a volunteer thing, so I don't know. But then they put the committee up for a re-vote, but Harold just says, "Hey, let's do it all," in toto, which means, I guess, I don't know. I don't know I don't know what that means, but it means to put everybody back on, I guess. Then Harold goes back to his house, and Nadine is there, and he's kind of surprised. But this is where Nadine is starting to seduce Harold, and basically like, we're gonna kill him, and then we're gonna go to Vegas, and you can be a prince, and I can be the queen, kind of thing. One thing that she says is that she's a virgin, which we know because she's saving herself for the Dark Man. Then we cut to 2 months earlier in Virginia, which is weird because... Okay, so when Stu met Fran and Harold, we don't know necessarily where that was, but shortly afterwards he runs into Glenn, which is in Ohio, right? And this takes place after that, and Fran and Harold are now in Virginia, which doesn't make any sense. If they're traveling to Colorado, why would Stu be in Ohio and they're still in Virginia? I don't understand. Anyway, Harold tries to advance on Fran, but she rejects him, and we cut to Glenn and Stu driving. Yeah, and it doesn't really make any sense, because later on, apparently they're in Georgia. I don't know how this whole thing works out, but I wish... It's weird, because they were definitely in Ohio. Glenn was in Ohio, that's what he said. But then they're in Virginia. And I don't know, can you walk from Virginia to Ohio in a day? I don't know. I guess that's what the show is implying, right? Anyway, then we meet up. No, so then Fran and Harold are just riding, and they see this truck that's completely blocked off the road, right? And Harold goes to kind of spray paint a sign across it, because we know from Stu and Glenn that he's been doing that, and that's how they're following him. But we find out that there's actually people in the trunk, and the show calls it the Pride. It's just one dude who kidnaps women for obvious reasons. In the book, it was the zoo, and it was slightly different. I'd say slightly more intense as well. It was a group of men, and they only had like 5 women, and every time they'd find a better one, they'd kill off one of the worst ones. Yeah, that's the way they put it. That's not my words. But yeah, it's really weird. And in the show, it's messed up too, but I'd say less so, because it doesn't get as graphic. And starts beating up Harold, and right before he's about to assault Fran, obviously Glenn and Stu show up, which it's TV, obviously, but in the book, at this point, Glenn and Stu were already with Fran and Harold by the time that they run into the zoo, and so it's not as dramatic. And this is where we first meet Dana Jurgens, and so you might remember the actress from the TV show Under the Dome. It's a very weird show. She plays Linda Escovez, the sheriff in that show. It's a weird show. Then we cut to that night, all the plates in the scene say Georgia. So I don't know how they got from Ohio to Virginia to Georgia. I don't know how that... I don't know. It's very, very weird. I mentioned that this is a weird thing that doesn't make any sense, but they mentioned that they're having all the women in the cornfield dreams, but they're like, oh no, we're not going to a cornfield, we're going to Colorado, which is weird because in the book, Hemingford Home is in Nebraska. I mentioned this earlier, but Hemingford Home is in Nebraska, and as soon as people start meeting up with Mother Abigail, and it's a homestead, basically on a farm, and as soon as people get too crowded there, they go to Colorado. But they just go straight to Colorado, and Hemingford Home is a retirement center, and so the cornfield doesn't really make any sense. Anyway, Glenn assumes that Harold is a man of science, which we have no indication to say that he is in the show, but apparently he is, I guess. I don't know. And so he tries to appeal to him through science, and I guess he does. Then we see Fran and Stu talking about not only Mother Abigail dreams, but also the Darkman dreams, which I wish we would see more of those. We've only seen 2 of those so far. But yeah, they talk about how they both had the Mother Abigail dreams as well as the Darkman dreams. And this is, chronologically, this is the earliest point at which Fran admits to someone that she's pregnant on screen. She tells Stu that she's pregnant, but then she also said that she told her dad, which we didn't actually see that happening, but I said that it probably did happen. Then we cut to the first day of the neighborhood watch. Harold is there. Actually, most of the body crew is there. Teddy, the guy who said last week, I said that Teddy looked like Paul Rudd. He's not Paul Rudd, he's Teddy. Which is interesting because Teddy was the character that Stephen King played in the original miniseries, in case you're wondering. Anyway, so they're both on the watch because they were both on the body crew, now they're over on the watch. Harold finds his paper brochure in his pocket because they're using ski uniforms. And he talks about how they used controlled explosives to keep the ski paths, ski trails. I don't know what the term is. How they keep those clear, so they use explosives. And this is kind of funny. Teddy talks to Harold. He's like, "Hey, do you think he's alive?" And Harold's like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "What's the rock?" And because he cuts to him holding a copy of Skyscraper, which is funny. And I think it would be hilarious if it turns out that The Rock was alive. Like, he doesn't have a big role in it. He just shows up towards the end like, "Hey, I've been alive this whole time." That'd be funny. Anyway. There's a new meeting going on with the committee. They're talking about sending spies. And it's interesting because I think it's Glenn that says that they're going against Mother Abigail's wishes by sending spies. That's something that they've made up for the show, probably just to add some tension or whatever. Fran nominates Dana, and Dana does this stupid thing where she's like, "Oh, so you want me to do this, and I'll probably die. Oh, I'm in." Which is a dumb thing to do on TV because whatever, I don't know. Larry nominates Judge Ferris, which this is the first time we've seen Judge Ferris, and which kind of sucks because at this point in the novel, chronologically, she was part of Larry's group. And so we spend a lot of time with, actually in the book, Judge Harris was a dude. We spend a lot more time with him in the book. So at this point, we know a lot more about the character. But as far as I know, this is the first time Judge Ferris has spoken in the show. She might have been. I remember seeing an older woman in episode 2 when we first met Larry. It could have been her. She didn't say anything then. And then Glenn nominates Tom Cullen. And we cut to 3 months earlier. This is where Nick and Tom meet Julie. And I have to say that Julie Lowry in the book is this scene is a lot of fun, and in the miniseries, the original miniseries, the scene was a lot of fun, but in this, it's not fun at all. Julie tries to she tries to advance on Nick, but Tom stops him, and then there's just a whole lot of kind of things that I don't like about this. But anyway, Julie tells Tom that Nick's name is Nick because Nick can't talk and Tom can't read, so they didn't know each other's names, I guess. And then they run away. I'm just gonna completely skip over that whole scene. They get away, and they see an advert for Hemingford Home, which I said was a retirement center, and Stephen King is on the advert, so that's fun. They meet Mother Abigail. Everyone in the retirement home is dead, and so yeah, this is potentially the end of part 1, at least when it comes to Nick and Tom. We might see a couple more. Like, basically all we need now is to see we need to see Stu, Fran, and Harold's group arrive in Boulder, and that's pretty much the end of it. but there's a character, I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to spoil it, but there's a character we meet in the first part of the book that hasn't been introduced yet, so I guess we're still missing that. The committee talks to Tom, and this is interesting because in the book they hypnotized him so that when he arrived in Las Vegas, they couldn't the evil people couldn't torture. They couldn't like extract any information from him because it was subconscious, right? But in this, he's fully awake and aware of the whole plan. So I don't know if that'll have any impact on the story. We'll have to see. Anyway, the plan basically is to go there, tell how many people, weapons, and then come back during the full moon. And they vote on it. I think everybody votes for him. I'm not sure. Then we cut to Fran narrating again at the end. And it's overlaid with a montage of people saying goodbye. Larry says, he gives Judge Harris a hug. I guess Fran says goodbye to Dana, although I didn't write anything about that down. And then there's this scene where Nick and Larry say goodbye to Tom, which is a good scene on its own. And then, so then the final two scenes of the episode, Nadine and Harold are at the nature center looking for the bomb, and they run into Teddy, but this is juxtaposed with the rest of the Boulder Free Zone turning on the power, right? And Larry is on the roof of a building playing America the Beautiful, which I believe was also what Jimi Hendrix did, I think, right? Anyway, I would have liked it if he played Baby Can You Dig Your Man, because we are approaching the halfway point of the series, and we haven't heard the song in its entirety yet, so I need that actually quite a bit. Anyway, so Teddy approaches. He's like, "Oh, what's going on?" Because he sees Nadine and Harold at the nature center, and in order to just cover their tracks, Nadine kills Teddy. And yeah, they get the bombs, and I'm assuming that they're probably going to blow some stuff up. But yeah, so this is the week WandaVision premieres this Friday, so on Saturday we will have a review of that first episode on this channel. Also on Friday we'll have a review of episode 5 of The Stand on this channel. So if either of those things are interesting to you, make sure to subscribe, ring the little bell, and yeah, you can join our Facebook group. I just made an impossible pop culture quiz, so if you're interested in that, go to the Facebook group. It should be towards one of the top posts. If anything related to news or commentary interests you, you can follow us on Instagram. If you'd like to contact the show directly, you do so on Twitter. And if you want to support the show, Patreon link is in the description as well. Until next time, I will see you later.